Masechet Kiddushin Daf Samech. Yesterday we saw machloket between Rav and Shemuel regarding the case of a man who says to a woman, "Here, you're mikudeshet to me, me'achshav ulachar sheloshim yom, from now and after 30 days," which is quite ambiguous. Now Shemuel says it's not so ambiguous. It seems simple that he made a condition. You are married to me from now, if I don't change my mind over the next 30 days. In that case, as long as he doesn't change his mind, the first guy is married to her. If someone else would swoop in the middle, well, then that guy is maybe married until the 30-day comes, and if the first guy didn't change his mind, then retroactively his Kiddushin is first, and she's married only to the first guy. So according to Shemuel, it's not a problem. According to once it's 30 days, then she's simply married to the first guy. According to Rav, however, he's not sure. Maybe this language means a condition, but maybe it means he changed his mind. First he says, from now. He says, no, I changed my mind. I'm not quite ready yet to jump into this marriage. You know what? I want to do it after 30 days. So therefore, he might mean only after 30 days does it come into effect. In which case, the guy that swoops in the middle before the 30 days and does it first, then he would be the rightful husband. Because his comes first, but we're not sure if it means that chazara. Maybe it means it tonight, like Shemuel, and therefore she's mikudeshet and nana mikudeshet. She has to get a get from both guys if she ever wants to get married properly to anybody else. All right, that's what we were up to. Amar Abaye, ultameh derav. Ba echad v'amar laha at mikudeshet li machshav ulachar sheloshim yom. Uba acher v'amar laha at mikudeshet li machshav ulachar 20 yom. Uba acher v'amar laha at mikudeshet li machshav ulachar 10 yamim. Merishon umeacharon siricha get, me'emsa'i ena siricha get. Abaye says, according to the reasoning of Rav, that this language, it doesn't matter what each husband thinks himself, but rather this language itself, how do we parse it? If we parse it that we're not sure, either it's a condition or he changed his mind. Well, in the following interesting case, let's say you have man A says, Mr. A, we'll call him, says, you are mikudeshet to me from now and after 30 days. Okay, so now we don't know what he means. All right, now a second guy comes the next day and says, you are mikudeshet to me now and after 20 days. Then on the third day, a third guy, Mr. C, comes along and says, you are mikudeshet to me from now and after 10 days. So now we have one big safek. What does she have to do if she wants to get remarried? Well, she actually only needs to get from Mr. A and from Mr. C. But Mr. B, there's no chance that marriage is effective. Why? Manafshach, because it's either one way or another. If it's a tanai, havai, dekama kiddushe, dahanachlav kiddushe. We're parsing them all the same way. Because again, it doesn't matter what this particular guy thinks in his mind. It's just this phrasing from now and after this many days. They all mean the same thing, whichever way they mean. So if we parse them all as a condition, so the first, Mr. A says, a condition from now if I don't change my mind. And then the second guy said on condition for the second day, and the third guy said a condition from now on the third day. So if they're all conditioned, and assuming none of them ends up changing their minds, then Mr. A is the one that did Kiddushin first, and it's retroactive to that first day when he does it, and therefore his Kiddushin is the Kiddushin, and Mr. B and Mr. C are out. Therefore, in that possibility, there could be that she's married to Mr. A, and she would need a get. Now, if it's I chazara havai de batra kiddushe dahanachlav kiddushe, if we parse this language to mean that the guy changed his mind, first he said from now, then he said no, forget it, after 30 days. And second guy said, from now, no, forget it, after 20 days, and third guy after 10 days. Well, the Mr. C, who said after 10 days, the 10 days is going to come before the 20 days and before the 30 days. And therefore, she is married to Mr. C. Therefore, either she's married to Mr. A or Mr. C. We're just not sure which one it is because this language is difficult and is ambiguous, but there's no possibility that she's married to Mr. B. Therefore, she only needs to get from 2 out of the 3 guys. Okay, very nice deduction. Now we ask, Peshita, isn't that obvious? Why do you even have to tell us that? Now, it really wasn't so obvious because this required a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out this conclusion. But still, once you do the mental gymnastics and you follow the logical conclusion, then it is a simple matter, right? How else would you be able to parse it? What other conclusion could you come to? Why did Abaye bother to teach this to us? And the answer is, I might have thought that this language can mean a Tanai, it can mean a Chazara for each and every person, that it goes by the person, that Mr. A might have meant that he wanted to retract, and so no, not from now, only after 30 days, but Mr. B wanted it to be retroactively from then, day 2, and in that case, Mr. B would be married, and so maybe it would depend on the thought of each person. Therefore, kamashmala, no, it's not about each person. This language itself we parse objectively. We're just not sure if all 3 should be understood as a condition, or all 3 should be understood as changing one's mind. That's all Abaye's opinion. Now, Ula disagrees. Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ula in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, says, Afilu me'at tofsin ba. Vechen Amar Rabbi Aseh, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Afilu me'at tofsin ba. He doesn't agree that it depends all one way or all the other way, but rather, let's say I had 100 men that did this. Well, you'd have to have a longer amount of time, right? Or split the day into parts. So one guy, Mr. A, says, you'll be married to me now and in 100 days. The next guy comes on the next day and says, from now until 99 days. Next guy comes right after, right? And 2 minutes later and says, from now till 97 days, and so on. Then that all of them we have to worry. We don't know which one is which one is a condition, which one he changed his mind, some this way, some that way, and there's a possibility that any one of them is the real guy who did whose Kiddushin is effective, and therefore she requires a get from all of them. Amar le Rav Mishashia bered Rav Amel Rabbi Aseh. Asber alach ta'amad Rabbi Yochanan, shavu nafsheh ki sharga de libne de kol had vechad Ravcha lechabre shevak. And so Rabbi Shashia, the son of Rabbi Ameh, said to Rabbi Aseh, I'll tell you the reason for Rabbi Yochanan, that for all these 100 men, each of them is like a row of bricks, but they leave a gap for the other, because they say from now, and they also say, after this many days, so they're leaving a gap for someone to come in between and do something. It'll be like, putting a row of bricks, but leaving a gap between the next row of bricks, and someone could stick a brick in between. And so because they're all doing that, there's always a possibility that someone else can come in and preempt if the guy meant that it should only happen afterwards. So this guy is coming in, and he could be the one that takes it first, but not necessarily. Maybe the guy who said from now, he meant from now, and therefore every possibility we have to account for. Mativ Rav Hanina, mehayom ulachar mita get ve'eno get, ve'emet holeset ve'lo mitya bemet. Now we have an objection from a Braita that says, regarding on the other side, getting out of a marriage, if a man says, here's your get from today and after death, which is the same ambiguous type of language. We mentioned this yesterday. So this is a get and not a get. So since it's a safek get, if the guy dies without children, so he has to, the living brother has to do chalitza and not yibum. Why does he have to do chalitza? Because maybe it's not a get, and therefore there's a zikah, a requirement to do yibum. She can't get married unless she remarried to someone else until she does chalitza. But she also can't do yibum because maybe they're not married, and because it is a good get. If it is a good get and the guy dies, even if a woman is a widow because her husband died, her ex-husband died, she still can't marry her brother-in-law. You can only do yibum if they're married and he dies without children and they're married at the time of death. But if you get divorced, then she's never allowed to marry her brother-in-law. That would be an isur karet. So him doing yibum would be an isur karet, and therefore, since we don't know which one it is, she needs chalitza and she can't do yibum. Bishlama lerav misayya le. Lishma nami hamane Rabbanan hi vanan damari kirabi. So now this baraita we can understand very well according to Rav, because Rav says a language like this is ambiguous. In the case of Kiddushin, it's ambiguous, and also in the case of Gitin, it'll also be ambiguous. When we say from now and after death, we don't know what you mean. Is it from now? So then it is a get, or after death, and you can't have a get after death. So then they're not divorced, but instead he dies, and therefore you need to do yibum. Since it's ambiguous, it's a get, and it's not a get, safek get, and therefore you have to be machmir. So Rav will be consistent, and he's totally fine with this opinion. Shmuel also could explain this beraita, that this beraita is the opinion of Rabbanan, and Shmuel himself follows Rabbi. We saw the expanded beraita yesterday, that in this exact case, Chachamim said get ve'no get, and Rabbi said kazeh get. Because Rabbi and Shmuel explains it, says that this is meant as a condition. The get should work from now, after I die, once I die. You can't give a get after you die, so that's why he says, I only want to take effect. I want to take effect now on condition that I end up dying. So just like for Kiddushin, he interprets it as a tenai, so also here he interprets it as a tenai, and that's Rabbi. So what does Shmuel do with this baraita? This opinion of Rabbanan, all right? And Rav lined up with Rabbanan, and Rabbi lined up with Shmuel, as we said yesterday. So that's totally fine. According to Rabbi Yochanan that we just saw, who says when someone makes a statement like this, from now and after some time, he's leaving space in between to put extra bricks in. Well, in the case of Kiddushin, it's just safek, and she needs a divorce from everybody. But in the case of a get, when you use that language, and so you left out some of the marital bond, you're somewhat divorced, but maybe something else can happen, and you're not totally divorced. So there's a general rule regarding get, that a get is all or nothing. You can't give someone a get and leave an open condition, on condition that you never drink any wine for the rest of your life. That's not a total divorce. The divorce has to sever her completely, and this is not a complete severance because we don't know what it means. He's leaving space from now and after death, and we don't know what that means. Does that mean now? Does that mean after, and it's good get? Does that mean after death, and it's not a good get? And so this should be canceled out completely, not be a good get at all. And therefore, since it's not a good get, once he dies, it's the death that separated them. And if he died without children, then the brother should be able to do yibum. That's the challenge according to Rabbi Yochanan. Amar Rava, get leosi umita leosi ma sheshiyer get gemaratu mita. Rav explains, no, this is a complete severance. You know why? Because a get serves to remove the wife from her husband, and death also serves to remove the wife from her husband. That's two ways of severing a marriage, is get or death of the husband. And so, even though the get still left some remnants, because it's not a complete divorce, because we don't know what it means, but whatever remnants it left off, death will certainly follow, and then she'll be completely removed. And therefore this language is okay, even though it's ambiguous. And he said this get is from now and after death. One way or another, after he dies, there is no more marriage, and so therefore it should be good. We're not leaving anything over. This language has a complete severance one way or another. That's Rava's explanation of Rabbi Yochanan. Amar le'Abaye midame get mosiah mershut yabam mita machnesa l'reshut yabam. Abaye says that's not a good answer, Rava, because not the same. A get removes her not only from her husband, but also from the yavam, from the surviving brother-in-law. Once you give a get, that's it. She's totally free to marry anyone, and she has no connection to the yavam. There's no zikah. Whereas death, it's true, it removes the marriage from this guy, the guy who died, the first husband, but actually death makes her closer to, makes a marriage responsibility, a zikah, with the yavam, and does not sever the marriage, does not sever her obligation to marry someone in the family completely. And so, no, she's not totally severed if you're going to take the get and the and death, they don't work together. They actually work at odds with each other with regard to the Yavam. And so that's not a sufficient answer. Ela amar Abaye, hatam ta'amamai gezerah mishum mehayom imati hareze get. Rather, Abaye says, really, even according to Rabbi Yochanan, if you say from now and until after death, it's actually not a good divorce at all, because it's not a complete severance, so there's no divorce, and really she could do yibum. Why don't we allow her to do yibum? Because if a gezerah, you might confuse the language of here's a get from today and after death. That language sounds a lot like this phrase, from today if I die. Now, from today if I die is a valid get. But if we allow yibum in the first case of now and after death, and we say, okay, you're allowed to do yibum, and then people might say, well, isn't that the same as from now if I die? And they might come to allow yibum in that case also. But in that case, yibum is totally not allowed, isur karet. And so therefore we make a gezerah, don't do yibum in the first case, even though it's technically allowed, do chalitza, so that in this case also you will make sure not to come and do yibum, because in this case it is in fact a valid get. All right, good. Now we ask, V'nigzor mehayom imati detachalos atu mehayom ulachar mita. Why do we make another gezerah the other way around? That if a man says, from today, if I should die, we should require them to do chalitza, even though from the letter of the law this is a valid get, and therefore you don't need chalitza or yibum, she can just go and marry someone. We should require her to do chalitza so that, because we might confuse it with our case of now and after 30 days, which we just said that you have to do chalitza. And so, since they're confusing, so we should require that you do chalitza in the case of mahayom imati, so that we'll make sure that you do chalitza mahayom ulahar mita. Okay, why don't we make that gezerah also? No, that's not good. No, but now we're going to worry. If you require chalitza in the case of mehayom imati, and you're doing that just for gezerah, so you don't confuse it with the other one, you have a bigger confusion that you should worry about. If you require chalitza, people might think that you can do yibum. But doing yibum here would be an isur karet, because it's a valid get. You said, from today, if I should die, that's a conditional, but it works retroactively. And so the get is totally valid. We're just going to require, you want to require chalitza in case you confuse it with the other case. But if you require chalitza, then people will say, oh look, you have to do chalitza. I guess that means you could do yibum also. So we certainly don't want to make that gezerah. So now we ask for the other way around, in our case of from now and after death, where you said, really, according to the Rabbi Yochanan, since it doesn't sever, so there's no get at all here. So really, you could do yibum. But you know what? Do chalitza just in case it gets confused with this case. So over here also, why don't you say the same thing? If you allow them to do chalitza, then they're going to do yibum. So we answer to that. They can do yibum, right? There's no problem of doing yibum in this case, because we just said that according to the Rabbi Yochanan, there is no get here, and really you could do yibum. We just said do chalitza so that you don't do yibum in the mehayom imati case, which would be an isur karet. But if you would end up thinking, oh, since I have to do chalitza here, you know what? That means I can do yibum, and you would be violating that the Rabbanan gezerah. Okay, so yeah, you violated Rabbanan gezerah, but really in this case, you actually could do yibum from the letter of the law. So you're not running into any deoraita problem. We're just really you could do yibum. There's no get in this case. Rabbi Yochanan says you didn't sever the marriage, so therefore the get is nothing. You could do yibum. We're just saying, you know what? Don't do yibum, do chalitza in case someone mixes it up with this other case. So and they might come to do yibum there. So we want to make sure that they do chalitza there. No, if you say, in this case of now and after, you say, well, since I could do chalitza, I could do yibum. Okay, do yibum. That was the original law to begin with. So we don't have to worry that it will come to any deoraita prohibition. That brings us to the next Mishnah. Ha'omer le'isha hareat mikudeshet li almenat sheten lach 200 zuz harezo mikudeshet vehu yiten. A man tells a woman, you are mikudeshet to me on condition that I give you 200 zuz. then the Kiddushin is valid, but he does have to give the 200 zuz in order for it to be valid. Again, I'll bring a machloket about this. Is this a condition and it works retroactively, right? You are married to me from now, when I give you, from now, if I should give you, is it an if statement, or does it mean when? I'll be married to you when I give it, meaning only when I give it. Okay, so we'll discuss this more. Second case, almanat she'eten lach mikan ve'ad sheloshim yom, datana b'toch sheloshim yom, b'toch sheloshim mikudeshet, v'im lav ena mikudeshet. If he says, I'm mikudeshet to you on condition that I give you this money within 30 days, then he has to give it within 30 days. As long as he gives within 30 days, the Kiddushin will be valid. And again, either way, either retroactively or on that 15th or 20th day, whenever he gives it, depending on if you understand this as a condition, as an if or a when. But if he passes the 30 days and gives it to her on the 31st day, sorry, too late. The condition is not fulfilled, and there is no kiddushin. Third case, almanat sheyesh li 200 zuz, harezo mikodeshet veyesh lo. He says here, mikodeshet to you on condition that I have 200 zuz. He wants to show I'm somewhat wealthy. I'm not totally impoverished. Then the kiddushin is good as long as he does own it. He doesn't have to have it with him here. It could be that he has it in a different location, far away. Someone's holding it from whatever. As long as he owns 200 zuz somewhere, the kiddushin is good. Almanat she'erech 200 zuz, harezo mikudeshet v'yad ela, v'im her'a et ala shulchan ena mikudeshet. If he says on condition that I show you 200 zuz, then the kiddushin is valid as long as he shows it to her. In this case, if he has 200 zuz far away, not good. He has to have it on hand, right? So that he can show it to her. Now, if he shows her 200 zuz on the table, let's say he's a money changer, and he has a table full of coins. He says, on condition that I show you 200 zuz. So see, right here, look on the table, 200 zuz. That's not good. Because what he means by, if I show you 200 zuz, is he means 200 zuz that I own. The money on the table is not owned by him. This is deposits that other people gave. You can't just, on condition that that I have lots of jewelry, that I show you lots of jewelry. I show you in the store window, here, lots of jewelry. No. He means that I show you that I have it, and I have it here with me. But he has to own it. Only then is it Kiddushin. Good. Itmar, Rav Huna amar v'hu yiten. Rav Yuda amar lich sheyiten. Rav Huna amar v'hu yiten tena'a haveh, mekayem tena'a ve'azil. In the first case, if he says, you're mikudeshet to me on condition that I give you 200 zuz, Rav says, the condition is fulfilled from now as long as he gives it. Rav Yudah says only when he gives it. Rav Huna explains because it's a condition, and therefore, as long as he fulfills the condition, so retroactively from the time that he said so, the condition is fulfilled. Retroactively, she is mikudeshet. Rav Yudah amar lich sheyiten. He says no, it doesn't mean if, but rather when. L'chia havu kiddushe hashtamiha lahava kiddushe. So if he says you're mikudeshet to me when I give you 200 zuz, and he doesn't give it today, he gives it to her in 2 days from now, then the kiddushin only takes effect in 2 days from now when he gives her the money. What would be a practical difference between them? Let's say in the meantime, in between those 2 days, on the next day, someone else comes and gives her kiddushin, and she accepts it from some other man. Rav Yehuda, the second guy is out because she is married to the first guy retroactively, as long as he fulfills the condition. Whereas according to Rav Yehuda, the second guy wins because he gave his kiddushin before the first guy did. The first guy waited too long, and because he interprets it as a when, not an if. Now this machloket between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda is also mentioned in the case of get, with the same language. A man tells a woman, here is your get, and it will be effective on condition that you give me 200 zuz. So the get is effective, but she does have to pay the money. Now, when does the get go into effect? Itemar Rav Huna amar v'hititen. Rav Yehuda amar lich titen. And here again, the Rav says it means if you give me. So it works from now as long as she fulfills the condition. At some point, the get is valid retroactively from the time that he says it. Whereas Rav Yehuda says, no, this language parses into, here's your get, and it will be effective when you, not if, but when you give me the 200 zuz. Rav Yehuda amar vehi titen tena ahave mekayma tena ave azla. So explaining further, Rav Yehuda says, as long as she gives it, it's a condition, and if the condition is fulfilled, then she goes on her way, and she is divorced from the time that he says the condition. Rav Yehuda amar lichshetiten lichi yehavale hu tehave get hashtamiha la have get. No, what it means, this means when you give me 200 zuz, so only when she pays the money, then the get is effective. But right now, there is no get until she pays the money. My benai will be a practical difference between them. Ikabena shenit kareya haget or she'abad. Let Rav Yehuda have a get, let Rav Yehuda la have a get. The difference would be if in between the get gets torn up or lost. According to Rav Yehuda, it's no problem because he gave her the get and she took it, so the get was transferred now and takes effect now. It's just that the condition will have to be fulfilled eventually. Otherwise, it will not have been good. But the get is given and is effective now. Just make sure to give the money at some point. So it's no problem if it gets lost afterwards. Whereas according to Rav Yehuda, he is giving the get now, but he says it's not effective now. It's only effective in 2 days, whenever you give the money. She pays the money in 2 days. But if in the meantime, the get gets lost, so now when she pays the money, there is no get to take effect. So now there is no get, and she is not divorced. Usricha. Now, why do I have to mention this machlok between Rav Yehuda and Rav Huna in both contexts? We don't actually know which context they said it in. They probably just said it. Maybe they only said it in one context. Maybe they said it in both contexts. Whatever it is, wherever they originally said it, we teach it in both contexts. Why is that necessary? Diashminan gabe Kiddushin behaka amar Rav Huna mishum de lekaruba kaate bal Kiddushin de lachaka kaate emamode le Rav Yehuda. Because if we only knew the context of Kiddushin, in that case, I would say maybe Rav Huna considers that a condition and it applies retroactively from now because Kiddushin is bringing them together. And a person, when he's doing Kiddushin, he's excited about it and wants it to happen as soon as possible. So he's going to say from now. But Kiddushin, where he's trying to divorce her and they're trying to separate, so there, maybe he wants to push it off because he doesn't want it to happen right away, you might have thought. And so there, when he says, in that case, when you pay me, maybe because he doesn't really want to get divorced right away, and he's delaying it. So there he means when you pay me, not if you pay me. So maybe Rav Huna would agree to Rav Yehuda in the case of divorce. That's why he has to tell me that, no, even in the case of divorce, Rav Huna also says that it's a condition and it happens retroactively. And the other way around, and if it only said this regarding divorce, Rav Huna, maybe I would say Rav Huna only thinks that in the case of divorce it happens retroactively, because the guy is not embarrassed to go and get the money from her. He's going to say this divorce will happen from now. On condition that you pay me. And so it'll happen from now. And now the guy, he wants to divorce. So he's going to go after her and say, hey, pay me money, and keep harassing her until she pays. A guy's not embarrassed to ask for money. But in the case of Kiddushin, where he says, I'll be mikudeshet to you on condition, the man says, on condition that I give you, the woman, 200 zuz. Now, if you say that it works retroactively, yeah, but the thing is, she may be embarrassed to go and ask for money. She's the bride. She has to go and knock on his door every day and call him and get a collection agency. Oh, where's my money already? She's embarrassed to do that. They're supposed to be, romantic. And so she may not want to, and therefore in her mind, she's not going to agree to such a condition. In her mind, she'll be like, listen, when you pay me the money, then I'll agree to Kiddushin. When, not if. I'm not agreeing now because I'm going to be embarrassed to come and ask for it. That's what she's thinking. So therefore, if you only told me about Rav Huna's opinion in the case of a get, I might say in the case of a get, then I might say in the case of Kiddushin, he would agree with Rav Yehuda. So that's why I have to mention that Rav Huna holds his opinion both in the case of Kiddushin and in the case of Gitin. Sedicha. Good. Me'tibe. Now we have a challenge to Rav Yehuda. Harezi kitech amanashe titini li 200 zuz, afa pi shenitkarea haget, o she'abad, hareze megoreshet, le'acher lo tinaseh ad shititen. We have this exact case. Here is your get on condition that you give me 200 zuz, the man says to his wife. Even though it gets torn or lost before she pays, still the get is good. That means it happens retroactively. Now, she should not get married until she pays, because if she doesn't pay, then the get is no good. So she, if he says, here's your get, on condition that you pay, and she doesn't pay, she goes and gets remarried. That's a problem because there is no get. She has to make sure to pay, and then she can go get married. So this supports the retroactive opinion of Rav Huna that it's a condition. This is a challenge to Rav Yehuda. A further challenge, same case, a man says, here's your get on condition that you pay me 200 zuz. Umet, and then he dies. If she had given him money while he was alive, then the get is valid, and even if, let's say, the husband didn't have children, she has no zikat to the boom because she was already divorced, so she can go free and she can marry anyone. Lo natana zikuka libum liyavam. But if she didn't pay in the meantime, and then he died before she pays, now it's too late. How she can't pay a dead guy. And so, and now the get was not valid because the condition was not fulfilled, and he died without children, so she has to go do yibum or halisa. That's the opinion of Tanakama. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer notenet le'achiv o le'aviv o le'echad min ha'kerubim. Rashbag says it's okay, even after the guy dies, she can still fulfill the condition by giving the 200 zuz to one of her husband's heirs, to his brother, to his father, or to anyone, whichever one of the relatives is inheriting him. Yes, you can do it even after death. Now, ad kana pelige ela de mor savar li velo liyorshai, mor savar fili yorshai. Now, what's the machloket between Tanakama and Rashbag? It's only the question of when the guy said, here's your get, on condition that you pay me. So does he mean me only and not to my heirs? That would be Tanakama. Whereas Rashbag says, pay until you pay me or any of my heirs. He has also included that implicitly in the wording. That's just about how we parse the condition. But but everybody agrees that it's a condition because the get does work retroactively from the time that he says the condition, right? Because it can't work after death, certainly not. So you see here, this is a challenge to Rav Yehuda because in both of these baraitot they support Rav Huna and that it works retroactively. And so we have a serious challenge to Rav Yehuda. How could he answer these? Amar lach Rav Yehuda, hamane Rabbi Hidamar Rav Huna, Amar Rabbi Kol Hamer Almenat Keomer Ma'arshav Dameh Ufili Gerabanan Ale Ve'ana Da'amari Kerabanan. Rav Yehuda says, who's the author of both of those baraitot? It's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Because after all, Rav Huna said in David Biyudan, see, there's a relation here. Rav Huna reported this very statement in the name of Rabbi, and anytime you say on condition, you're implying from now, right? If once a condition was fulfilled, then the act applies from now. It's as if you said from now, but that's the only opinion of Rabbi. The majority of the rabbis disagree, and I follow the majority, that when you say on condition, that means when the condition is fulfilled, only then will it take effect. So I have no problem. I'm in fact the majority. You're following just Rabbi. I am following Rabbanan. Gufa. Now we're going to analyze further a statement that we already said. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rabbi Kol Amer Amenat Keomer Me'arshav Dameh. Rav Huna reported the name of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi that when you make a condition, what you mean is that the condition should be fulfilled retroactively from now. Amar Rabbi Zera, ki avenu beBavel, hava amrinan, had amar Rav Huna amar Rabbi, kol omer amenat, ki omer me'arshav da'ameh, peligi Rabbanan aleh. So Rabbi Zera, he lived in both Bavel, then he moved to Eretz Yisrael, but he went back and forth. So he reports that when he went to Bavel, in Bavel they taught that this statement of Rav Yehuda in the name of Rabbi, that Amenat means retroactively from now, is only the opinion of Rabbi, but the rabbis disagree, and they think that when you say on condition, when you say Amenat, it means when I do it, only then it will happen. Okay, and that's what we reported up here, and we said that Rav Yehuda can answer the challenges to those two Baraitot by saying those two Baraitot are the opinion of Rabbi, but Rav Yehuda says, I'm going to follow Rabbanan, that the words Amenat do not mean retroactively, but rather only when you do that action. And so the Rav Yehuda is consistent with the way the machloket is understood in Bavel. However, when Rabbi Zera went to Eretz Yisrael, he found Rabbi Aseh sitting and saying in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the primary teacher in Eretz Yisrael, he who said, "Hakol modim omer amenat komer me'arshav dameh, lo nechluku ela mehayom ulachar mita." In fact, everyone agrees, both Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Rabbanan, that when one says almenat, it means retroactively from now. Everyone agrees to that. It's not just Rabbi's opinion. That's Rabbanan too. Where is the machloket? The machloket is only the Braita that we mentioned above and yesterday, when you say mehayom, now and after death. That's where there's a machloket, and the Rabbi thinks it means it's a condition. Now, I'm giving you this get, now and after death. He means that it will apply now. Once I die, right? When I die, if I die, then it will work retroactively from now. That was the opinion of Rabbi. But in that case, Rabbanan say, I don't know if this is a condition. Maybe he changed his mind and he means now. No, after death. So we don't know how to parse this, and therefore it's a safek, get, and eno get. Rabbanan only disagree with the formula mehayom l'chad mita, but if he says an amenat, they agree that it happens retroactively. Now we ask, v'hatanya not ask. Now we prove that this is true. V'hatanya mehayom l'chad mita get ve'no get. B'rachamim Rabbi Omer kazeh get. This is the Braita that we've been talking about the whole time. Here's your get from now and after death. So this is a get or not a get according to Chachamim. You see, in this case, they disagree with Rabbi. Rabbi says it is a get, because it works retroactively, no matter what the language is. This language also is retroactive, and the Rabbanan say, if you say almenat, that means retroactively from now. But mehayom l'chad mita, that's just ambiguous language, and therefore it could be now, it could be later, and so therefore we have to assume the stringencies of it being a get and it not being a get. Question to Rav Yehuda, who in Bavel, like the other people in Bavel, taught that the machloket applies almenat also, and the Rabbanan, even in almenat case, says that it applies only when you do the action. Why did the rabbis bother? How come Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim said their machloket in the case of mehayom and lachar mita? Why didn't they disagree with the case of almenat? Since according to Rabbi Yehuda they disagree in both cases, but the Braita only mentions their disagreement in one case, and Rabbi Yehuda is the one that said, I know they only mentioned Mehayom al-Chamita, but they also disagree on Almenat. Why didn't they use Almenat as their primary place to express their machloket? And the answer is, Lo diacha koach de Rabbi, de Mehayom al-Chamita name hare ze get. Because they wanted to show you to what extent the Rabbi says it works retroactively. Not only when you say Almenat, where that's a regular reading of Almenat is, this is yours now, on condition that you do this, so the condition will be fulfilled from now. That's so it wanted to show you so that of course it'd be it's most people would say it means now, but it wants to show you the extent to which Rabbi is lenient or permits this retroactive, even in a very ambiguous language of now and after death, even then, it works retroactively from now. That's why it mentioned the machloket in that case. Wait a second. Wait, why not say the machloket in almenat to say how stringent or not retroactive Rabbanan is, that even in almenat, where it sounds like he means from now on condition, no, even there it means only when it happens. So why not teach it over there to show us that the power of Rabbanan? And the answer is koch tehetera adifa. It's the power of leniency is greater. There's a leniency in this case because he's saying the get is good, and now she can go get married. So that's a leniency. So we always want to show the power of leniency. It's easy for someone to say, not allowed. You can always say, not allowed, right? But to be able to show and prove that it's allowed, that is a greater chidush and takes greater power. And therefore, that's the bigger chidush we want to show, that Rabbi says, not only in almenat, even me'ayom l'chad mita, it works retroactively, and the get is a valid get. Almenat sheten lach mikan, the Mishnah mentioned the case where he says, here is your kiddushin on condition that I pay you from now and within 30 days. So he has to pay within 30 days, otherwise it's no good. Peshita, isn't this obvious? Right? He said this is as a condition. Now, I might have thought maybe he didn't mean it as a real specific condition. Maybe he meant it only to motivate himself. Listen, here's your you're mekudesha to me. And I'm going to give you the money within 30 days. I'm not committing to 30 days. I'm just saying, don't worry, you'll get it soon. Probably within 30 days. I would have thought maybe he doesn't mean it as a strict condition. Maybe it's 31, 32 days. He's just saying, I'm going to give it soon. Don't worry about it. So kamash malan, that we take the condition legally, seriously, and 31 days, no kiddushin. Now when he says, here's your kiddushin on your mekudesha to me on condition that I have. I'm not giving it to you, but that I have 200 zuz somewhere. He has to give her something, whatever. He gives her, 1 coin. Now, v'nechu shema yeshlo, ve'od tanya chayshinan shema yeshlo. So we said, if he has the money, then the kiddushin is good. If he doesn't, then we infer that the kiddushin is no good. But how could you ever prove that he doesn't have 200 zuz somewhere? To prove that he has it, that's easy, right? He can show it to her, or have someone testify, yes, I'm holding 200 zuz for him, or something like that. But how could you ever prove that it's not so, such that it would not be kiddushin? Furthermore, there is a baraita that says we always have to worry that maybe he has the money, and therefore we have to worry that the kiddushin is good. So what are we going to do with this baraita? And the answer is la kashya. Ha b'kiddushe vadai, ha b'kiddushe safek. When the Mishnah says that if he has it, it's good kiddushin, that means if he somehow proves that he has it, the kiddushin is definitely good. If he doesn't prove it, then we never know. And that's in fact the case of the Braita. If he doesn't prove that he has it, then we worry that maybe he does have 200 zuz somewhere, and so she's going to be mikudeshet misafek, and she won't be able to marry anybody else until she gets a get from this first guy. And lastly, almanat she'erech 200 zuz. If he says, "I'll show you 200 zuz," but not necessarily that and he shows it to her on the table. That's no good. Tana lo nitkavena ela lirot mishelo. When you use that language, I'm going to show you. Doesn't mean I'm going to show it to you in the bank. It means I'm going to show you that it's mine, right? She means I'll marry you if you have 200 zuz to your name, not just if you show me 200 zuz that someone else owns. Therefore, if he shows it to her on the table, on the money changing table, that's not good because he has to own it. Pishita, isn't this obvious? The chidush is I might have thought, let's say he got this money because someone invested with him, right? He's starting a business. Someone said, listen, I'll give you this $1,000 to invest in your business venture. As a partnership. So you might think that maybe that would be good, right? Look, this guy invested in me, right? So therefore, see, I have money. And so the Mishnah has to teach us, not so. It's not his own money. He's just investing someone else's money. who trusted him with it, but he doesn't own it. He's going to have to give back that money, and with whatever deal that they made, whatever profit that they make. So it's not his money. He's just doing business with someone else's money, and therefore the kiddushin in such a case is not valid. Let's now begin the next Mishnah, which is exactly parallel to the previous one. Al menat sheyesh li bet kod afar hareze mikudeshet v'yesh lo. A man says to a woman, "You're mikudeshet to me on condition that I have a size, have land, a size of which can produce a cord of wheat." And if he has it, then the kiddushin is valid. If he says, he says, I have some land in that particular place. Well, if he has land in that particular place, then the kiddushin is good. If not, then it's not good. He says, on condition that I show you a bet cord, right? Not only that you trust me that I have it, I'm going to show you this land. So if he does show it to her, then the kiddushin is good. But he has to show it to her to fulfill the condition. But if he shows her some random field in a valley that he doesn't own, that's not good. He didn't mean if I show you a field. He meant if I show you a field that I own. So exactly a similar case to what we just saw. Now we ask, in the first case, which is that I have a bet cord. If he has it, then the kiddushin is good. Does that mean to imply that if he doesn't have it, then there's no kiddushin at all, and she can go free? But maybe he has it somewhere. Like how could anyone ever prove that he doesn't own something somewhere? Furthermore, and in fact, there's a braita that says we do have to be concerned, and therefore she won't be able to get married to anybody else. Until he gives her a get, because we never can prove that he doesn't own something. And the answer, as before, la kasha habikidushe vaday habikidushe safek. The Mishnah was talking about when it said that if he has it, she's mikudeshet. That, if you want a definite kiddushin, he'll have definite kiddushin on the positive side if he in fact has it. But if he doesn't, then you're right. We would not, if he doesn't show it to her, then you're right. We never know. And that's exactly what the braita says. That's when the braita says, chashinan shemayesh lo, maybe he has, doesn't mean that for sure he has, just maybe he has a field, and therefore we have to be concerned that he does have a field and that maybe they are married, so that's why she would need to get misafek. Why do I need this whole Mishnah? I already had a Mishnah regarding money. Why do I need this Mishnah regarding land and also Mishnah regarding money? Sericha, I need them both. If you only told me regarding money, well, people do tend to hide money. So say in that case, I have to worry. Maybe he had money somewhere else, maybe not. And so there's kiddushin misafek. But I might have thought that when he says, if I have land, well, it's harder to hide land. If you own land, there's probably be publicity about it, right? If people know, oh, does this guy own land anywhere? Oh yeah, I remember he bought some land in that place over there, because a land you buy with a shtad and go to Beit Din and so as witnesses, and so people generally know about it. And so if we find that I might have thought that if you find that no one knows of any land that he owns, then maybe the kiddushin would be invalid and she could go marry totally. That's why we have to teach this Mishnah also, that if he does not produce land, then the kiddushin is still a safek, because maybe he in fact does own land somewhere else. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.